Hey, what's up, guys? I just posted a video, so hopefully everybody didn't skip my video and just watch this live stream instead, because it's way easier to just watch the live stream. No point in watching the video now. But anyway, I posted the video and getting it uploaded, and the prices really started to pull back. I'm thinking, man, it's going to be outdated before I even get that thing posted. It's still relevant, though. To be honest with you, it's still relevant. It still looks good. So let's go see what's going on. Evelyn Stone in the house. Happy Friday. Sad face, smiley. It's been a crazy week, right? I know we have certainly felt the sentiment here. I've seen some of my fellow YouTubers getting destroyed on the comments. I'm like, geez, you can just feel it. I mean, everybody's certainly feeling the pressure there. So I got some folks from the group coming in. How you guys doing? Thanks for being here. Did a live stream earlier today, and surprisingly, we were talking short selling, and we're doing a live stream now to take a look at the charts. As noted in the title of the live stream, does 6K hold? Are we going to hold this time? We are seeing some bounce action. We're seeing some potential reversal, but we're so close to that 6K mark. If it breaks, in my opinion, you're going to see a quick spike down. That's going to be a stop for a lot of folks, a psychological number. And so just something to keep in mind there. I've been of the opinion that if we broke below 6,800, we would retest 6K, and 6K would not hold this time. But hopefully I am wrong about that. The thing is, we have a very high short interest, and so we could very well see a bounce first, a nice bounce, a short covering rally, and then a pullback. So just something to keep in mind here. Let's go look at the BTC shorts real quick, and then I'll do a deep dive on some of the price action here. So looking at the Bitfinex shorts, and I mentioned this in the video, I kind of went over this a little bit here, but you can see this has just been rising steadily, even in the face of some rally attempt that we saw yesterday. Yesterday was really the first decent attempt that the bulls have staged on a rally, trying to hold the lows. There were some good counter trend attempts here, but they were unfortunately short-lived. We saw the market starting to pull over, roll over again, and pull back. And so you can see on the short side, the short interest continues to rise. Now we're hitting some pretty good numbers here at the high end, and so it is getting a little extreme on the upside, but we have not reached historical highs. I mean, we were here in March, April, much higher than we are today. And so could it go higher? Absolutely. It certainly could, especially if prices look like they're going to break below 6K. Then I think you'll see the shorts really start to pile in there. And so just something to keep in mind here. Going back to the BTC charts, let me go to, let's see, Bitfinex, since we're on the same chart there. Just the relentless selling. I mean, not a bounce to be found. We had an attempt yesterday. We had a little bit of a green bar there. Going into the 4-hour chart, I like to use the 10 EMA. You can see what's bouncing right into that. We had an attempt to roll over, and then we just kind of pulled back here. And then today, it's just been very choppy. It was basically forming a symmetrical triangle, which was technically a bear pennant because it's coming on the back of a downtrend. And so that's how you play that. You look at the momentum. Clearly, it's in favor of the bears. Next move wins. Could it have broken higher to the upside? Absolutely, because it was technically forming some higher lows. You had one there, you had another one there, you had a good attempt here, but you needed confirmation. A close above that 6,600 or so would have been good confirmation, but we had to move down. So question is always, how far down does it go now? Volume is starting to spike here. RSI is getting sub 30 on the 4-hour chart, but we've seen it hit extremes before. I mean, look at back here. If you go right here, when Bitcoin was breaking down and it bounced to around 7,500, the RSI went down to 21. Small little flag, but prices continued much lower after that. So doesn't necessarily mean prices stop going down just because the RSI is hitting those extremes. But if you're shorting, and I was taking some shorts earlier, just covered before the stream because it's too hard to trade and stream at the same time. But if you're shorting, it is getting a little riskier as time goes, just because we've seen such the big leg down. And so take the profits quick if you can get them, is my motto right now, because the market can turn just as quickly in this environment. So that's what I'm looking at here. But how low do we go? So the latest support level, let me clear this, was this right shoulder low, this last swing low we had before the big rally. Let me thicken that line up there for you guys. And you can see that was basically that $6,100 mark, and we've just undercut that. And so we sliced below that. We had, I mean, almost to the penny, we hit that yesterday before seeing a little bit of a rally, but we just pulled right back here. Now on the daily chart, the 10 EMA is way up here, still around that 6,800, 6,900 zone. And so it is stretched to the downside, which is another reason why it's getting a little risky here, but it could continue lower. I mean, we've seen this before. Right here was definitely oversold, but look at how far prices slid before you saw a little bit of a bounce. And so we have seen a relentless 2-week slide. This has just been crazy. A lot. I mean, it's basically fully retraced. You know, this entire move was largely fueled on the excitement around an ETF. And once that started to fade, I mean, you basically retraced that entire move from that. So next mark is 6K psychological. We came within pennies of that here just a little bit ago. We came very close to that, but does it hold? Most people are starting to say no now. They're realizing probably won't, but hey, if everyone's saying no, it's not going to hold it. Maybe it does this time, but I'm not so optimistic. And I've been saying that here for a couple of weeks now. It's just we've been rolling over, and if 6K breaks, then next real price support, 6K is kind of a psychological number. Big price support has shown up at 5,800. That's been the case here for multiple attempts. You saw that here in November. That was a big swing low here in November. You saw that huge wick in February come close to that on some exchanges. And you saw it here again. And so that's going to be the price point, the ultimate price point to be watching here. That's kind of the low, certainly the low of the year, the low of 2018. And so we're headed right towards that. But it's, you know, that's also conversely, right? When you look at it from that perspective, it's a key support zone. And so if it's going to bounce within this little window that we are looking at right here. Basically, this between 6,100 and 5,800 is going to be kind of the last stop, right? It's got to bounce there, or we're going to see a pretty big break. Or we could see both. It wouldn't surprise me, honestly, to see another bounce attempt, maybe to the 10 EMA or something on the daily, and then we roll over during the weekend. So just something to keep in mind. There are certainly a lot of oversold conditions. A lot of you guys are asking me, you know, what do you think? Should I go long here? Should I buy? I personally am not yet, because I mean, it could just as easily break down and you can see a very quick leg down, right? So I would rather wait until we get some sort of big reversal, some sort of confirmation before starting to get a little bit more aggressively on the long sides. And so that's what I'm looking at here. Let's take a quick look at the coin market cap. I'm going to move quickly here today, guys, because I do have a hard stop in about 20 minutes. So this is going to be the shortest live stream ever. Well, not ever, but I don't know if I've ever done one for less than 30 minutes. Maybe it will be the shortest live stream ever. You know, you have a good question. You have a good point there. So you're talking about no demand, 30% drop in the last 2 weeks. And so let me segue into that before I hit the market cap, because that's a very good point. When it comes to sell-offs, they're not like rallies where with rallies you need demand, right? With rallies you need the big push higher and you have buyers and sellers battling it out, but clearly the buyers' demand is stronger than the selling demand, and so that's what pushes prices higher. If there are not enough sellers to go around and buyers want more, then it's basically a market auction system. And so that means you got to pay more if you want it. And so you need more buyers to outweigh the seller demand here in order to see prices go up. But that need not be true on the sell side, because on the sell side, you know, there's an old saying, the market will fall on its own weight. And all you need for the sell-off to continue here on this side is people to just do nothing, right? If there's no buyers stepping in and they're just sitting there, then anybody who wants to sell has to start selling at lower and lower prices until buyers start stepping in. So that's why you tend to see faster moves to the downside versus faster moves to the upside, because you get those lack of liquidity events where suddenly everybody wants out, everybody wants to hit the exits, but there's no buyers to show up. And so it's a race to the bottom until you hit a price point where the buyers start saying, okay, there's some pretty good deals here, I'm going to take this, right? And so that's why, it is lack of demand, but a lot of it is just the market, falling on its own weight, if you will. And so there's something to keep in mind, and that's not just the same for crypto, that's the same for any market. Now, crypto is unique in the sense that there's not a lot of derivatives in this space, right? So yeah, you're starting to see shorts showing up, so eventually shorts have to cover. But for the altcoins, most of them don't have derivatives, and so they can continue to drop very quickly without shorts having to cover or people having to go long or that sort of thing, right? There's no such thing as put options. There's no such thing as futures markets for most of the altcoins. And so because of that, that's why they can sell off very hard. So just something to keep in mind. Let me see, when we have this many bears, we usually bounce. Absolutely, right? When the sentiment gets this bad, this negative, when the shorts pile in, we're close. But doesn't mean you don't get that climactic washout low first. So keep that in mind. From a time perspective, we're probably close and due for a bounce. But from a price perspective, man, who knows? It could be any time. So, all right, let's see here. So looking at the market cap here, I covered this briefly in my video, but it's gotten a little worse since I posted it just a half hour ago. But you can see here across the board, BTC down 17% in the last 7 days. Many of the other names much bigger. EOS down 25% in the last week, 40% for IOTA, smacking. Monero down 23%. NEM, just huge drops. VeChain Thor down 36%. And so it absolutely feels like capitulation. It feels like there's just people are, and keep in mind, these numbers are coming on the back of prices already down 60, 70, 80%. And now you're seeing like the big smack after that. And so, yeah, it feels like you're starting to feel that capitulation. A lot of longtime holders are just saying, screw it at this point. There was somewhat funny video, the crypto twins yesterday, and they were just arguing, and he's like, why sell now? Just HODL. You've already lost 90%. You might as well lose the last 10%. And they were just being silly, but it was you had some comical relief, and unfortunately in this crazy sell-off that we've had. But I'm not gonna sell I'm not gonna buy or catch the falling knife yet, as they say, just because we're at such a critical juncture here on the BTC side, and if it breaks, then it doesn't, there's nothing to stop it from going lower. So just something to keep in mind, guys. But here we go. It's basically a big descending triangle right here that we're looking at, higher, lower highs. We're hitting right at support. So the good news is we're right at support. The bad news is we are right at support. And so do we break 6K here today? It very well possibly. We're within spitting distance, as they say. Let's go to ETH, because ETH was what I was shorting earlier today, for a couple of reasons. One, it's breaking below this support here, which we were seeing the April lows have already broken. And so, you had that low break, 360, 365, whatever you want to call it, 370. But basically that support has broken, and it's getting crushed right now. You look at the BTC side. Well, before I move over to the BTC side, let me go to the 4-hour chart. So I was seeing this little bear flag form here. 10 EMA was trickling down, and it was setting up for another potential short. So I took it. But then looking at ETH BTC, where's the BTC on Binance? It's right at support as well, right? And it's testing it. And if you go to the daily, this is a long time must hold level for ETH. And right now it's not looking favorable. It looks like it wants to break. Whoops. So that's why. And I'm thinking if Bitcoin breaks below 6K and really starts to sell off, I expect Ethereum will underperform and sell off even more than Bitcoin at 6K. And so that's why I went the ETH route, as well as the ETF, right? There's that the ETF hanging out there, and the short interest wasn't as extreme on Ethereum as it was on Bitcoin. And so there's a couple of reasons why I went that route instead. But it's getting riskier here at this level because the market could just as quickly turn on a dime here and have that big counter reversal move, right? And if we start to see that, you're going to see a lot of those shorts really start to pile on top of each other and try to cover. And it's going to be the inverse effect, and it's going to be kind of a short covering squeeze. And we've seen them in the past, right? So going back to BTC, if we go to, let me go to the Bitfinex, or I'll go to Binance, it's fine. You can see here on April 12, 14, whatever it was, April 12th, you had that rally, and that was a huge rally, right? I mean, that came within hours, and you saw like $1,000+ move very quickly. If you look at the short chart for that day, it was just this huge drop on the shorts, and that's them basically covering. And so when you're at these lows, at these extremes, you just got to be a little cautious. Now, we'll probably see some sort of flat line first. Those V bottoms are pretty rare, so just something to keep in mind. But it is getting riskier here as the prices continue lower. Not to say they can't go lower, because they absolutely can, but we are starting to hit some oversold levels. So let's see if we hit 6K before the end of the stream. I will be done in 10 minutes just because I do have to drop off. Let's see here. When McDonald's, yeah, I'm going to start investing in ramen. I'm thinking ramen's going to be a good buy here soon. People are going to start really needing their ramens. Oh man, remember when CoinMarketCap added their little price everything in Lambos? They're going to need to price everything in ramens here soon, so we can compare prices a little bit more accurately. Oh man, Stellar Lumens. Yeah, Stellar has been doing pretty good here. It has some news driving it, but it certainly has been the strongest name here in recent days. So looking at Stellar, Tether first. Now it is hitting resistance and it's reversing now, but it was the stronger name earlier, and we had some news on Facebook and showing that little pop, but you're seeing that sell off. And that's normal, right? I mean, that's the thing with the markets, is they're just such high correlation in this space that if Bitcoin sells off or if ETH starts to sell off, everything does. And so it was looking good until this sell-off happened, but was definitely one of the stronger names here in the last day or so. Had one of the biggest bounces. Most of the other names were trying, but we didn't see as strong of a bounce. I think Waves was showing a pretty good bounce too. Let me go to Waves. Yeah, Waves was showing a pretty good bounce, and it's still holding up relatively well considering what's going on. I mean, off the lows already, Waves is up. Where are we at? It's up still about 20%, but it's basically retraced this whole resistance zone. So I mentioned open space in my last video, where a lot of these names were, they had this kind of move available to them because they basically would retrace that zone. Waves is basically hitting their resistance, so I'd be cautious now on Waves. Looking at IOTA, down 40% on the week. The great smacking on IOTA, and it's crazy because it was already down. How much was this guy down here since his top in June? You were down 50%, and then here in the last week and a half, another 30+ %. So pretty crazy. Or I'm sorry, that's the 4 hour. You get the gist. You guys get the idea. Breaking support, and things really start to move fast. Let me go to some of the other ones here. Back to BTC here real quick. Now BTC also, the other thing was kind of annoying was Coinbase, GDAX had their snafu, and they basically went offline for a good time. I think 12 hours or something. It was a long time. So they were down. But you can see this gap in the chart because of that. When they finally came online, prices were much lower. I'm sure that screwed up a lot of people. So there's got to be some people really ticked about that. But you know, that's the counterparty risk, unfortunately, in this space, which is why I generally tend to use more than one exchange on trading, because we've seen it in the past. I mean, remember a few months back when Binance went down and they were down for days? I mean, that's crazy. So just something to keep in mind. The space is still relatively young. The ecosystem's young, and those things happen. Still should not happen, but it happens. All right, looking at VeChain, looking at Link. All right, let's take a look at Link. Link's still holding up relatively well. Not too shabby. It's been one of the better ones. I've just not taken any longs on any of these names right here, just because, you know, the overall trend is down, and you're going to have these names that are always countering the trend, bucking the trend. But certainly everything is trending downward, and so that's, you know, go with the trend. The trend is your friend, as they say, right? That old saying. But it holds true. I mean, if you get the wind to your back, it makes trading a lot better. Let me go back to some of these comments here. There was a comment, do you use TA on the BTC shorts chart? No. It's just a quantity. That's all it is. So like moving averages and RSI or patterns, you don't apply those to this chart. Okay, this is just simply showing you open interest of the shorts and the longs. You can do the longs too, but don't do TA, right? So people are looking at like, oh, there's a saucer or there's a cup and handle, or I mean that doesn't matter. It's not valid. Hot dogs and water for dinner tonight. Oh man, you can afford hot dogs? I don't know. I was thinking about just bread and water. Maybe if I close out some positions here, I'll buy a hot dog. Neo is dying. Time to be greedy. Yeah, maybe. Might be. I mean, when you look at some of these prices, wow. Let's go to some of these, like Neo, right? $19 sub $20 Neo. Like I would have never expected to see Neo. You know, I remember when Neo hit $18 last summer, and it was like the big sell-off. Who would have thought, right? We were going to be at $20 Neo again. Like, that's just amazing how far some of these prices have come. It's crazy. Maybe it is time at this point, right? Now I guess this is where you take a long-term view and you say, screw it, $20 Neo, might as well just pick some up here. Cardano, 11 cents. Stellar Lumens, Ripple. Where's Ripple? My Ripple fans at? I know there's still a huge army. You guys are going to be bullish until Ripple goes to 3 cents. Ripple at 31 cents, down from $3 and change, $4, whatever that was at the highs. Let's see here. Man, this continues any longer, Ripple's going to look like the Bit Connector. I'm just kidding. Like the coin chain, the chain chart. Oh, 3 something. Anyway. Crazy. Coin market cap is approaching that $200 billion mark. 200. Are we going to break 200? Peercoin's doing well. Breaking news, Neo rebranding to Ant shares. Yeah, break out the memes, man. We're going to have to go retro. We're going to be like, retro, Neo's back. Ant shares is back. Jeez. Brutal. Tough crowd. All right, so what do you guys think? I want to know on the comment. No, I don't want to know what you think. I want to know something specific. What do you think about the price here? Bitcoin, is it going to break 6K? Yay or nay? Are we going to break 6K this weekend? I vote yay, just so you know. But you don't have to vote how I vote. You can vote however you want to vote. Just curious to see what's going on out there. What you guys think? EOS. I'll go through some of these charts while you guys respond there. Breaking 6K, can't hold 6K. Yay, nay. Down to 5,900. It's the weekend, probably yes. Yeah, I agree. You know, with the volume and liquidity, it would be easier to break it. Nays, lots of nays, yays. 4K. So it's pretty split out there. I would say you're probably about 60-40 yay nays. You're always going to have the 4,000, the 3,000 calls, the 1,000 calls, 3K. You're surprised 6K held this long. Yeah, you never know. Huge support at $1. Ooh, all right, so let's keep going here. I'm going to do a few more, guys, but I do seriously have to break hard stop here in a few minutes. So I just want to touch base, get us online here. I was wondering if we were going to see this thing break live 6K on the air here today. Just getting that second leg down, the sell-off. But like I said, we're starting to hit these oversold levels. A bounce would not surprise me, but I wouldn't necessarily interpret that as, hey, we found the low. I'm still looking for a bounce, but maybe that was it. Yesterday was just a bounce. So looking at EOS, again, this one's breaking down here. I did take a small counter trend trade on this one over the week. They had small double bottom, had a little bit of a breakout reversal here, and it was heading higher. But with all of these, I was playing them tight. Once they got into the green, moved stops up quickly, kept it tight, took profits when I could, and you can see this one just rolled over. And so far, not looking too good, making a new low here. Going to the daily chart on EOS. This is EOS dollar. I'll go to EOS BTC. Just breaking down here, $5, 520 EOS. Looking at EOS Bitcoin. Let me clear these lines here. And you can see that small rally attempt here. Just last couple of days, just really trying to break down here. So what I'm going to be looking for here are these outside reversal bars, right? Not everything's going to form this pattern. Some things will just move differently, but this is what I'm going to be looking for if we start to show the lows. So in April, or actually EOS bottomed earlier, but I had some news and other things driving it. But we had this pattern, right, where you had a big hammer. It was already dropping and prices were already down significantly. We were hitting these oversold levels. And I remember this was a Saturday evening. I remember watching the charts, and we had this big sell-off, and it was very quick, especially at the lows, right? We were dropping. It was the lows, and then prices dropped, very fast. They were down 10, 15%. But people started throwing the towel at that point. But then what happened is it just quickly snapped right back up. And the next day we had a huge day. It was up 28% on the day. And so don't necessarily need that big of a move, but you're looking for these big reversals at the lows, especially if volume shows up and it's high volume. You can see on this day, this was the biggest volume day in months. The following green day, same thing. And so that's what I'm going to be looking for, right? So as opposed to kind of waiting and guessing and picking the bottom, you can always just wait to see the reversals. Does that mean you get the absolute low? No, of course not. But if you're catching it when it started to bounce and move up on a trend, then at least you're now in it at a better time where you're going with the trend. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. Let me go to some of the other examples here. IOTA had a similar pattern. ICX had a similar pattern. You can see that big reversal bar there, some follow through the next day. And so that's what you want to look for, right? That kind of action. Doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes you go flat and then break up. BTC was a good example of that, right? So you had this trickle down. You kind of had just flat line. It was almost forming a descending triangle, to be honest with you. Things were breaking down. But while Bitcoin was doing this, a lot of those alts started to pop, during this low. EOS went, and then ICX, and then IOTA. And you just had a few names really start to take off. And so while Bitcoin was sitting tight, a lot of alts kind of started to lead the way there. So there's a couple of ways it could play out. But we're at a little bit of a juncture here. Prices are hitting that key support level, psychological numbers. And so a break below, you could very quickly see that panic sell-off. So that's what I'm going to be looking out for here. All right, guys, I'm going to do a few more questions, and I'm going to have to wrap it up here. So let me go through the list here. Whatever happened to John McAfee? Whatever happened to his calls, man? I was hoping he was right. I knew he wasn't going to be, but I was really hoping he would be. Oh, man. You may lose your house if this keeps going down. I hope not. I hope not, my friend. If you're leveraged or margined or on borrowed money, that's no bueno. I mean, people always say it, right? But it's in situations like this that it matters, right? People always say, don't invest money you can't afford to lose. Don't invest money you need tomorrow or next month. Don't trade with money you need. And this is why, because if you get caught and you need that, that's not good. That is not good. All right, let's see here, John. Oh, what's my 4K prediction? Oh man, that's tough because I mean a lot's going to depend on what happens in August. Coming into August, I kind of said, hey, it's a little bit of a critical month because we had that sell-off. Now we need to prove ourselves, and ETF is still lingering and all that, and then that was kicked down the can. So it's gonna be tough. I don't know. If we break down here, then Q4 is not looking too hot. We could have a bounce, but it'll probably just kind of meander for a while. If we hold here and then ETF news gets exciting again, that'll be good. But yeah, I'm not so sure. F. All right. We'll do F one more time. I covered that here at the beginning, but we'll absolutely do that because it is the leading alt right now. I mean, market cap wise, it's big. It's looking weak. And so it's breaking below this support level, right? This 360, 370 zone. That was a key support level. And here this week, we saw that level crack. And today, we saw a little bit of a bear flag forming on that 4-hour chart as the 10 EMA started to rally. And now we're seeing that break lower. And you've seen the RSI hitting some extreme lows here. I was short on ETH here right before the live stream, so I covered that here, took the profits. But it's not out of the woods yet. Absolutely not, because if you look at the BTC side, it's sitting right at support. Excuse me, not that one. ETH BTC. You can see it's sitting right at support, and it's breaking that now. And this is a long time support level. And so I think it's got room. I think it's got a ways to go to the downside. It's RSI is breaking 30, yes, but you could see a quick spike lower here on Ethereum. So, which is why I chose that over BTC on the short side today, just because it's the weaker of the bunch. And I was thinking if BTC broke down, ETH would break down a little bit further. So that's what's happening right now. But taking the bull case and looking at the positive of this, yes, the market's oversold. We were hitting some extreme conditions, and this could very easily turn into a double bottom with a bullish divergence on the RSI. I mean, if you saw a quick spike lower and then some buyers start showing up here, that's the pattern I'd be playing at that point, is a double bottom, looking for confirmation here, right? Or if you saw a bounce with an inverse head and shoulder. I mean, you're always looking ahead, right? Always looking for what potentially could happen from here, which is partially why I covered the short as well. So just looking at that. But for now, it's not looking too hot. ETH is looking weak here. All right. So that's going to be it, guys. I appreciate everybody joining. Appreciate the likes. This is a short live stream because I do have to hit the road here in a little bit. So thanks for joining. And I did post a video just before the live stream. If you missed it, kind of covered a little bit of the same points, went along the same lines, but see what happens this weekend. Most likely, I will be doing another update this weekend. I usually don't. I usually try to take the weekends a little slower, but this is it's going to be an interesting weekend, no doubt. So I'll be checking that out here, and I will bring you guys an update later on. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for the likes. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Take care.